And to get fairies, I don't know if there's a faster method than this.
Saveload.
What we're going to do is come down here, save, and how many fairies are we after? Just 2. We're basically just going to walk this path up north towards the boss, see if there's any fairies along the way, and if there's not, we'll just load.
Load.
And we're going to keep doing that until our 2 fairies show up. And you're going to get excited like I do. You're going to see a fairy flying around and be like, there it is, Brickroad! But it's actually my grabby fairy floating around my head.
Load.
It would be pretty cheeky if the guy gave you a Navi fairy, but I think this game might actually predate Ocarina of Time. So it would have been cheeky and time travel-y. But basically all the fairies in the game augment some ability of yours. Like the grabby fairy causes the coins to magnetically orbit in towards you, but she makes you go up levels a little slower. You get less experience from each monster you kill. And so there's 16 fairies in the game, 4 in each world, and each one has a benefit like that and a drawback. But without the magnetic pool, collecting coins is excruciating, so I basically just use Grabby Fairy for the whole game. There's an item you can buy in the store that replicates and also stacks with the Grabby Fairy's magnetism, which would free up your fairy slot for something else, but that costs money and it would be more farming on my part. So, just buckle in. You know, we might be at this for 5 minutes. We might be at this for 6 hours. It's completely random, and this is the worst level to hunt fairies down in, simply because of all the trees. And I think one of the fairies that we need to grab in this world is one that I'll use later. There are some situational levels where I do want another fairy other than the Grabby Fairy. In fact, this boss fight coming up is one of them, because there's no coins in the boss fight. There's no point to having a Grabby Fairy, so... You could also just do this method and just sit here and load and load and load over and over and just see if one appears by the shop. And this works too. I have no idea which is faster on average. I think I just prefer the walking method because it is a little less boring. I would prefer, obviously, just getting the fairy immediately upon picking up the bell. I don't understand why there is this extra step. I guess the thought process might be something like it's a added exploration element and gives you a reason to walk around the levels and get into more random encounters, but I don't fight random encounters anyway, so... There is another item you can buy that points towards the nearest fairy on the level, but for one thing, again, it's really expensive, and I don't want to do any more gold farming. And for another thing, it doesn't activate right away. You have to, it takes a minute before it activates on the level. And in my experience using that thing, by the time you get it to activate and it points you towards a fairy, you're going to run into a random encounter. And obviously coming back from the random encounter randomizes the position of the fairy anyway, because he has to reload this, like the overworld map. So, the item is almost pointless. My world is even more miserable than yours right now, because in all likelihood, you, my dear friends, I mean, first of all, you can just skip ahead in the YouTube video and go past this part if you want. You know, you can mouse over the little timeline and you can see when you're no longer staring at this dumb little shop and be like, oh, if I click right there, then I'll be past the fairy farming and we won't have to look at it anymore. But more to the point, is I'm betting within arm's reach you have a tasty beverage that you may partake of. Whereas I have no such beverage at the current juncture, and my mouth is parched right now. My goodness.
Load. Load.
Completely parched.
Load.
I had water
Load.
at the start of this session, but I drank it all while I was
Load.
nervously fighting off the spider level.
Load.
Come on, fairies.
Load.
Where are you at, dogs? Where are you hiding? I'm reminded of a video I made years and years ago now. Another suggested video, actually. Another viewer-selected video. This was before I had a Patreon, though, so I forget what circumstances. I don't remember. But anyway.
Load. Load.
There's a SNES game called Demon's Crests that I Let's Played back in the day that I had never played before, but got selected by a viewer. And there's a level in that game, there's like a mini game where you've got to break blocks with your forehead in order to, you have to like break X amount of them in X amount of time in order to clear the mini game. And I have an entire video dedicated to just that. And now I have an entire video dedicated to just this. So my YouTube channel is Thrills and Spills and Chills, and I'm stuck in the tree. Stuck in the tree now. Let me see what fairies I have. Smashy and Cheapy. We will need Cheapy Fairy, but not yet. But yeah, there's another fairy in this world. Even if I wasn't going for the hundo, I'd still be doing this because there's a level later where I need to use this fairy. And then there's one more fairy after that. After we do stumble upon this one, there's going to be another one we got to do this for. And then there's 2 more worlds of this. The other worlds are not nearly as aggravating, though, because they don't have trees blocking your vision everywhere. It's possible that on one of these loads we might have gotten close to the fairy, but we just didn't know it because it was completely hidden by one of these trees. I'm betting that to make this game, the guy made like a map-making tool and then was able to just place these trees down using like a paintbrush kind of thing. And he just, you know, I don't want to be down in the river. He just went absolutely nuts with the trees. The problem with being down by the river is the fairy can fly out over the river, but you can't. So even if you put in the walk on water code, it doesn't function on the world map because the water doesn't kill you on the world map. It's just an obstacle that you can't walk through. That was, in fact, the boss fight up there, in case you're wondering. That's what's up this way in the woods. It's just not open until you clear all the levels. You've got to clear all 8 of the levels, except for the secret clearing with the sword piece. You don't have to clear. But obviously I wanted to clear it. Of course. I have been doing this, by which I mean making gameplay videos, for over a decade now on YouTube. I think maybe I should make a compilation of every like boring farming video I've done. I do try to avoid doing it. In fact, if you remember from last year I did Battle of Olympus, I used a cheat code to avoid doing it. But for this game, because it's an amateurish indie made by one guy kind of game, I feel like showing off all the little foibles is part of the experience. You know what I mean? So hunting down these stupid fairies, if I have to do it, you have to do it. You don't have to do it. You got your seek bar down there. It's a YouTube video. You can click to the point where you want to be. And you know that I've got the fairy bells because the squares are yellow. They're just not occupied yet. So you know that I've actually done it. Just haven't actually done it yet. The other trick I usually do, not usually, but sometimes in situations like this, is I'll use the fast forward button and just fast forward through this. But I'm not doing that with Kid Mystic. I'm not.
Load.
I might have to jump cut and go to the fridge and get a tasty beverage, though. That's something that might happen. Because my mouth is dry.
Load.
I learned a long time ago, again, doing this for over a decade, but I learned a long time ago to not sit down and do a recording session without a glass of water, even if I have some other beverage, typically iced tea or Pepsi or something. Have water at hand. And of course, one of the reasons I try not to do really long recording sessions, I like between 1 and 2 hours is a good length for a recording session. But I've learned not to go much longer than that, because if you do, and you start the recording session with, say, a glass of iced tea and a glass of water at the ready, by the end of that recording session, the call of nature, shall we say, becomes unbearable.
Load.
Oh, maybe I shouldn't tell this story, but this video is already terrible, so maybe it doesn't matter. Years ago, I was recording... Oops, I want to save there. That's a bad place to save. What was I recording? I had to junk the recording and replace it. It might have been It'll Do, or maybe Guacamelee, because those are both games that I tried to record and then had to junk.
Load.
Anyway, I was recording, and I had been sick, and I was just getting over being sick, and I wasn't all the way well yet. Like, it was a bad sick too. It was like a stomach flu, and I was doing the recording session, and like mid-sentence I suddenly felt extremely nauseous, and I had to like be in the bathroom right now. But I'm recording, so what I ended up doing was, like, mentally, I'm really stressing out. I've been recording for like 2 hours, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go through this screen transition. So it must have been It'll Do, because It'll Do has actual screen transitions where Guacamelee is instant. So it must have been It'll Do the first time I tried to record that. It's like, okay, I'm gonna go through the screen transition and then pause, and then go be sick in the other room. And then when I come back, I can just splice the footage together and nobody will notice. But I ended up not keeping that footage, so you're not gonna... If you go back to my It'll Do series now, you won't see any such splicing. These fairies are being unreal right now. Unreal. Here's what I'm gonna do. I don't know if this is gonna help, but I'm gonna quit the game, and we're gonna see if they show up now. Eh? Anybody? Fairies? Hello? No?
No.
The hundo in this game is... Finding the hidden stuff in the levels I enjoy quite a bit, but this fairy hunting, not so much.
Save.
Actually, looks like going into a shop didn't reset the level.
Load.
It didn't reset the positions of any of those monsters or anything. These are some uncooperative fairies. I did say, though, in the previous world, because we got all the fairies, like, real quick. They pretty much just stacked on top of each other for me. I did say that we were going to pay for it later, and we're paying for it now. Fortunately, we got 2 fairies pretty quick in this world, though. Let's kind of wander some of the paths for a minute. No? Not up in this corner either?
Load.
Let's wander another path. I wonder if that means if I do get into a random encounter and just resolve it instead of loading or running away, if a fairy's already on screen, it'll stay on screen. I can continue to chase it down. I thought everything on the map got reloaded when you came out of a random encounter. Maybe it doesn't. There might also be like some...
Load.
It might also be the case that some fairies have area preferences, like they'll spawn on different areas of the map, but I have no idea if that's the case.
Load.
So we're just going to keep doing this and loading and loading and loading for 7 videos.
Load.
I feel sometimes, because playing video games is supposed to be fun, and it is usually, but frustration and aggravation and sometimes overcoming that frustration and aggravation is also a big part of the experience of gaming. I think anyone would agree. So once in a while, I think it's acceptable to have videos like this, where you're just hunting down fairies or doing something horribly repetitive. Because it is part of the experience. Part and parcel. I will say, though, that it has never taken me quite this long on all the test plays I've done. I've played through this game probably 3 or 4 times now. If you include the aborted recordings I had when I had to replay Worlds 1 and 2 because I missed some of the secrets. But yeah, I gotta say, it's usually not this bad. Oh my goodness. Whew. With every passing second, the jump cut becomes more and more likely. Any minute now, there's going to be a jump cut in your feed, and I will reemerge with an ice-cold glass of water with which to quench my parched tongue. There is a U in the word tongue that I don't agree with. Okay? There shouldn't be a U in that word. Can we all just get on the same page there? The word is not tongue-you.
No.
So, I think we should play a fun game right now. Okay. We should play a game called What Wikipedia tab is open on Brickroad's laptop?
No.
And it happens, and I just got reminded of this because the word tongue-you.
No.
My Wikipedia tab is currently on John Montague, who is the 11th Earl of Sandwich. We were having a conversation in Discord, as we are wont to do, about what foodstuffs constitute a sandwich. Now, my personal definition, and is that a monster? That's a mushroom in the trees there. It looked for a second like the sparkle of a fairy, but it was not to be. My personal definition is if it's ingredients enclosed or wrapped in starch, you can charitably call it a sandwich. Is a hot dog a sandwich? Yes, it is. It is ingredients inside of bread. Is a Hot Pocket a sandwich? Sure. Is a Pop-Tart a sandwich? You cheeky bastard. But yeah, sure, why not? But we were discussing it. It's like, man, there should be an authority. There should be someone whose job it is to know what foodstuffs are sandwiches and what are not. And who better than the Earl of Sandwich? Which he has a restaurant named after him now. He actually licensed his name out to a restaurant called the Earl of Sandwich, which has delicious sandwiches. Unfortunately, my closest Earl of Sandwich is very far away. Nah, not very far away. It's like a 15-minute drive. But man, a 15-minute drive when you live in the suburbs, that's pretty far away. When you live in the suburbs like I do, it's like everything's within 2 or 3 minutes. So 15 minutes, you better really want a sandwich.
I'm Cool Cat Bad.
Shoutouts to Dada for sponsoring this video, and to everybody who helps make my channel possible by supporting me on Patreon.
Run away!